I'm a professional who works in the neurodevelopmental field, both autism and ADHD, but I've also got diagnosis of ADHD myself. I'm so passionate about trying to spin the positives for someone that has ADHD, because we see all the negatives, and I've seen it even working with professionals, within my thing, that there's such a profession, like some people really get it and other people see a negative side. Well, actually it's not. It's like cliche, but superpower of it as well. So that's why I'm so passionate, and I want to sort of help ADHD UK sort of spread the word and show that people can, you know, have a really great life with having a brain that works a little bit different. I always struggled through school and even university. I had to work really, really hard. I didn't have a diagnosis through university. So when other people were off out doing, cramming the last minute thing, I used to have to work like literally on my books all day if I could do, and sort of like go off and have background music in order to be able to focus and stuff. It was actually through lockdown that in my work, I found that because things had really changed and like routines had changed for me, I found the focus that I could have sometimes just completely went out the window. And through my work, I was doing more and more research on it. And I was like, you know what, I'm ticking all these boxes. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to go. I've got nothing to lose. I'm going to go. And I actually went down the private route because at the time I worked in the NHS, and I personally didn't want like people to know much then about my assessment process. So I went through a private firm. They were absolutely amazing. I filled in all the paperwork. I then got given medication, got the diagnosis. And yeah, that was it really. I sort of got the diagnosis, but when I did, it was quite interesting because you sort of have your professional head, but then you also have your personal head. And it wasn't like a grieving process, but it was more of a, oh my goodness, if I'd had this diagnosis many years ago, you almost wonder what could have been, sort of thing. I don't regret anything I've done, but like you just sort of think, oh, if I'd had that help at school, it might have been a bit different. So yeah. I might have the impulsive behavior, but that impulsive behavior has got me to travel all around the world. I've met amazing people, and it makes me a go-getter. So for me, that's a positive. I try new things constantly. Every year I'm learning something new. So for me, it's a real positive. It's actually a bonus to have someone with ADHD in their workforce. My way of thinking, I mean, it's an individual for everybody, but my way of thinking is to think outside the box. So I can scan a room, I can pick up on things in a room that maybe other people can't. I can hear everybody's conversation in a room. And that, my outside thinking, I'm very solution focused, and because of my quick thinking, sometimes I can come up with answers that no one else can think of. Plus also you put me in like an emergency situation and I'm there, I'll just get on with it. There'll be no panic. I just sort of just something twigs and I just get in there and get on. So yeah, that's the bonus of having me with them. One thing that always sticks in my mind is I've had good teachers, but I've also had teachers that said the good old saying, has potential, could do better. At the time, I was trying so hard. And even now in my work, I hear this from school reports that I have to read. This kid has potential, could do better. That could be really, I'm a really positive person, but it could be a real negative thing. And it does, and it will last for a long time with people. Because that thing always keeps in your mind that you could always do better. So it doesn't matter how much you achieve, you're always thinking, I could do better. And it doesn't matter how many degrees you've got or what levels you've got, you always have that in your mind. So that's what I'd like to say to those teachers that say, could do better. Actually, I did the best I could at what I was at the time. I think again, saying that actually with the right support, you know, I could have helped other students if I knew myself as well, but like how hard I had to work to get through everything, you know, it wasn't, I mean, everybody works hard as a student, you know, it doesn't matter, even people blag about it, don't know that, oh, I'm not working hard, but you do, if you want to have a good degree, you do. But I would like to have let my lecturers know that I had to work so hard, and that actually one type of teaching does not fit all, and that actually it needs to be adapted a little bit. So yeah. Actually, and because I'm a psych nurse, but I've also worked in general sort of practice as well, especially in mental health teams, I find that people that come through needing extra help because their mental health, they're almost written off because everything is put down to ADHD. Actually, you can have ADHD and another condition. It's not all down, you know, it's that diagnostic overshadowing. It's not just about, oh, everything's down, and actually, oh, they're really impulsive, they're really emotional. Actually, there's a reason for that. There's a communication thing. There's a people are overwhelmed, and again, it's how hard someone has to work sometimes to fit in with the neurotypical world, that, you know, we'd all be really boring if we were neurotypical. So actually, you know, I think that needs to be taken into account, and to adapt things like therapies. You know, again, I've worked as a clinical lead, as a nurse in a team, mental health team, and a lot of people would come through who would go through to therapy and they just didn't get the therapy because it wasn't real enough for them. And I think that's, it just needed tweaking a little bit. So for me, that's what I'd be telling the NHS colleagues, is that actually just adapt a little bit, and, you know, not one, you know, not everyone fits that little hole. Well, just thank you for accepting me for a start, and just taking me for who I am. I think, I don't know, actually, I think for my friends, I think they do accept me, and I think that's great. They just, you know, they see me, not my ADHD. And sometimes if I have to go off and just be my own, you know, on my own, they accept that. I think maybe new friends or friends that I've had previously who didn't quite get that, is to accept that sometimes as someone with ADHD, you get so overwhelmed that you need to go off and just recalibrate a little bit. And it's nothing against them, it's just that you need to have that downtime. So I think I'd probably say that to maybe people in the past that didn't quite get it, or if sometimes I haven't got that filter that other people might have. And I used to go into rooms and new people and say, I'm really sorry if I offend you, I really don't mean it, because I'd hate to sort of hurt anybody. So I used to sort of preempt anything that I might sort of open my mouth to. But, you know, I just want to say thanks to my friends who do sort of understand, really, if you like. All I'm going to say is neurodiversity runs in families, so it's very understood. And that they just accept who I am, so that's great. Probably wouldn't get rid of it. I love having my ADHD. It makes me who I am, really. I think sometimes I have a wish to sort of be able to focus really. I mean, I can hyper focus, and when I hyper focus, it really hyper focuses. But I think my boredom threshold is so low that sometimes I don't always stick with things. I think that's probably something that I would maybe tweak. However, again, flipping it on the other side, I wouldn't try so many things if I was just focused on one thing. So yeah, that's probably my answer to that one. Music for study. I think even when I'm writing reports, or if, you know, I think for me, having certain, it's different music each time, but like certain background music for me is really good. I've got so many notepads and, like, you know, to-do lists which help me, but not overwhelming sort of things. You can have so many to-do lists that you lose them. And for me, exercise is a really important thing. I try and get a bit of exercise every day because it just helps calm my mind. My mind. It's not, and it doesn't have to be, you know, people say go and do mindfulness, but if you've got ADHD, trying to sit in an hour class, it's not going to happen. So, you know, taking it when you can, those sort of 5-10 minute sort of breaks. So for me, they're the sort of main strategies that I use, really. I think sometimes the worst thing that's happened to me, I mean, I always see the positive side, like I said, but I think the worst thing that's probably happened to me is when people don't get you, and you can present as quite vulnerable and people can take advantage of that sometimes. I think that's probably the worst thing. Or you sort of like, you may not progress as quickly in your career because you've gone off and got another job because you sort of you got bored of one, whereas actually if you probably stayed you might have gone up a bit quicker. um you know, it hasn't stopped me. I've certainly sort of progressed, but it probably been in a quite a roundabout way, really. I think that's probably the worst, really. I mean, like I said, I like to see the positive of things rather than the negative. But yeah, there's definitely some downsides as well. Probably spending time in New York City, getting on a plane and just going off to New York City, California, doing things like, I was really into things like drama and stuff like that. So just going off when I felt like it at a certain time of year, go off, meet loads of people, and just spending amazing time over in the States. So I think that's probably the most amazing thing that's happened to me there.